Hi, how are you? Hope you're well. Today I am starting a very exciting video, and that video is letting a random wheel generator pick my books for the next month. The reason why I'm doing this is I was trying to figure out what Kindle Unlimited's price would be if I were to gift it to someone for a year, like how much that costs, like if you just give them a year's worth of subscription. And while I was trying to find the prices, I accidentally clicked on the button that says get a free month of Kindle Unlimited trials. So I now have Kindle Unlimited for a month. I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna let it go to waste. I'm gonna read books on there and just put the books off that I've been wanting to read for a month and actually use Kindle Unlimited because I have it for free for a month and it would be a waste not to use it. So I took a couple of hours one day and I went through all the books that I want to read, all the books on Kindle Unlimited, and just like made a collection of a list of books. I think I have like 17 books, which I definitely won't be reading all of those in 1 month. That's impossible for me. I did make that list, and so I'm going to make a little wheel generator with prompts, and I'm going to make the prompts so that they're working for multiple books, kind of like almost a TBR jar in TBR videos where it's like a prompt and you get to pick a book based off of that prompt. That's what I'm going to be doing. I'm gonna go ahead and go make that really quickly, and then we're gonna pick my first book together, and a random wheel generator is going to be prompting my next reads for this entire month. So exciting. Hi, so I'm back. I've made my prompts and I'm going to spin the wheel for the first time and then decide what book I'm going to read. So we're spinning in 3, 2, 1. Oh, okay, so a book you don't want to read. Okay, great start. Really great start, especially after just getting out of a reading slump. But okay, I'm going to go through my little list that I made on Kindle, and I will be back once I've chosen the book that I'm reading. All right, I am back. I went through my list, read a couple of samples, because I did have a couple books that I downloaded that I was like, I'm probably not going to read these, but I've heard good things. And so the one that captured my attention for a book that I don't want to read is Nettle and Bone by Kingfischer. So I've heard a lot of good things about this author in general, and then this book as well. And I've wanted to try reading this author for a while now, and when I saw that this book by them is available on KU, I decided to just download it, but not with the intentions of actually reading it, just with the intentions of like having it there. And then I got this prompt. So, but like I said, I read the sample, so I read about the first 2 pages and it did kind of intrigue me. I haven't read the back of the book at all. I have absolutely no idea what this is about, but it's 270 pages, so it's pretty short, which is nice. And I didn't actually want to read it, so we're gonna give it a shot. I will read the blurb here now so that we can both understand what I'll be reading. This isn't the kind of fairy tale where the princess marries a prince. It's the one where she kills him. Mara never wanted to be a hero. As the shy, convent-raised third-born daughter, she escaped the traditional fate of princesses, to be married away for the sake of an uncaring throne. But her sister wasn't so fortunate, and after years of silence, Mara is done watching her suffer at the hands of a powerful and abusive prince. Seeking help for her rescue mission, Mara is offered the tools she needs, but only if she can complete the 3 seemingly impossible tasks: build a dog of bones, sew a cloak of nettles, capture moonlight in a jar. But as is the way of tales of princes and witches, doing the impossible is only the beginning. Hero or not, now joined by a disgraced ex-knight, a reluctant fairy godmother, and an enigmatic grave witch, and her foul familiar, Mara might finally have the courage to save her sister and topple a throne. That was not what I was expecting at all, and I'm suddenly much more intrigued than I was when I was picking this as my read. So, how exciting. I'll check in soon, hopefully. Maybe once I've read a bit, maybe once I get halfway, we'll see. But this is the first book of the month. So, hi. So, I am officially 38% of the way through Nettle and Bone. I'm halfway through chapter 9, and the reason I'm checking in is because I'm really just not feeling it. So I decided to just stop reading it and wait for the audiobook to come through from the library instead, because I do want to finish it. However, I'm gonna be perfectly honest, there is a lot of talk about pregnancy in this book, and quite frankly, I am just not very fond of that topic. Pregnancy is something that like absolutely terrifies me, and so just like reading about it is never fun, and I didn't go into this thinking there'd be so much talk about it. The main character herself isn't pregnant, but her sister is pregnant constantly, all of the time. Like, it's kind of insane how pregnant she is just all of the time, and it's mentioned a lot, and so I'm just not feeling it. It's rubbing me the wrong way, and so that is why I'm just gonna listen to it, because if I read any more of this, I'm going to go into a reading slump because I don't like it. But I do want to finish it. Been wanting to give Kingfisher a shot. I don't think this was necessarily the correct book to start with, but that's okay. So I want to see it through, and I'm not going to judge the author's work based off of this book because I'm just not vibing with it. Hi, so I finally finished Nettle and Bone. I ended up giving it 3.75 stars. I ended up having very mixed feelings about this book, but I spoke a lot about why in the past clip. It's all of the pregnancy stuff, so I'm not really going to touch on that again, but the reasons I didn't like it is the same reasons why I had to switch to the audiobook. But then I did find the actual story very interesting, and I really love how fairy tale-ish this story felt, because if you know me, you know I love a retelling, and even though this wasn't a retelling, it had the same vibes. It just felt very magical. It felt very otherworldly, and I just felt like I was transported into an adult version of a book or show or movie I would read or watch as a kid. Obviously, this book does have a lot of dark content because it does deal with domestic abuse and just having a violent bad husband. So it is quite dark, but I feel that the author dealt with it very respectfully, and then also balanced it really well with the humor, which made it fun. And during the dark parts, it never felt disrespectful toward that subject matter. However, I also never really felt like overwhelmed with the darkness of the actual trigger warning content, because she balanced it so well with the humor. If I had known about the pregnancy, I definitely would have picked this book up at a different time and picked a different book for this prompt. However, despite the things that made me uncomfortable, I still enjoyed it, which is why I gave it a 3.75. I was kind of just following my gut in terms of the rating. It's not a bad book by any means. It was just those topics and it's like fire and ice, we don't get along. So yeah, I would recommend this book. It was well written, it's pretty short, and just know going into it, the first third, there is a lot of talk about just pregnancy and being pregnant and babies. I do wish that this was not my first T. Kingfisher book, and then I also do wish that I had known more going into it, but that was my fault. So yeah. Hi, so we're here to do the second spin of this video, so let's just get down to it, and I'm spinning in 3, 2, 1. Ooh. A book you saw on Book Talk. Okay, so I actually added this prompt for a specific book, so that's very exciting. I don't even need to go check because I know exactly which one I'm going to pick, but the one I'm picking is The Queen's Shadow by, I think it's Rachel Song. And essentially this is an enemies to lovers novella, and I remember seeing a TikTok about it like a day after I got the Kindle Unlimited trial, and it was basically one of those swipe ones, and it was a scene from the book where her enemy like threw himself on top of her to protect her from, I don't know if it was arrows or like something falling, I don't remember what it was, but they're essentially not only enemies in like the sense where they don't like each other, they're actual enemies, they're shadows from opposing kingdoms that aren't really currently at peace, and in that scene he threw his body over her to protect her, and I was just like, that is up my alley. So I added this prompt in the hopes that I would get that book. So the fact that I got it is very exciting. And it's also a novella. I think it's less than 200 pages. So I should be able to fly through this one. I'm going to start it today and I'll probably be done with it by this weekend. So very exciting. I think I'm just gonna get straight into it, and because it's a novella, I'm not even going to really check in. So I will see you once I've finished that book to let you know what I think of it, but I'm very excited. Hi, so it is just a few days later and I finished The Queen's Shadow. It went by pretty quickly because it was 150 pages. I did not give it a rating because I don't rate novellas. However, if I were to give it a rating, I think it would be somewhere in the 3-star range. I did enjoy this book for the most part. As you recall, I wanted to read this because of a scene that I saw on Book Talk, and it delivered. I thought I missed it somehow, and then I finally got to it, and it definitely delivered. It was a great scene. However, my main issue with this was that I did not feel connected to anything that happened because there was so much packed into this novella. Once again, this is an enemies to lovers fantasy romance with plot intrigue. Trying to fit all of that into 150 pages is difficult to be successful with, and in general it was a bit too much and a bit too little, and it suffered the consequences of that. So my first problem was within the first third, I found it incredibly difficult to understand what was happening. Okay, not incredibly difficult. I'm being a drama queen once again, but I did find it hard to understand what is happening because it kind of felt like I picked up a romantasy book, but I started at like page 100 or like page 150, and I just like missed all of the world building, all of the plot set up, and like the character introductions, and I just like threw it in as kind of like, who are these people? You get to know them throughout the book and everything, but once again, it's 150 pages. So usually that first 100 pages in a fantasy book that is like mostly kind of info dumping, kind of setting up plot, setting up characters, getting to know the main characters or like the main point of view, helps you to connect more with other people because you're finally in that character's head. You know what I mean? And with that, you just didn't get this. And by the time I kind of got to know the characters, the book was over. And so it was like, oh, I didn't even get a chance to hang out with them. I was getting to know them while they were doing the interesting stuff. And by the time I was like, okay, let's go on an adventure, the adventure was over. You know what I mean? And so that was just kind of difficult. I think I would have liked this a lot more if it was closer to a normal novel's length. It could still be a novella, but I think even just an extra 100 pages would have done a lot, or even 50, just to have more of an introduction to at least the main character, just to get to know them, to see who I'm rooting for, why I'm rooting for them, what is going on, what is the world, what is the magic, because it was just a lot to try and figure out. During the entire book, half the time I didn't fully understand what was happening. Maybe I'm just stupid, maybe everyone else who read this was fine, but that was my experience. However, I did enjoy it. It was a decent romantasy novella. Again, it's very short and it's on Kindle Unlimited. If you want to read it like that, go ahead. Like I wouldn't stop anyone from reading it. I would just say, like, if you do feel disconnected, like, same. But yeah, it was interesting. It was fun. Since all of the novellas, not even this one, are so short, I do think they're great if you just want something that you can maybe read in a day, or if you're a very quick reader and let's say you're going on a flight but you don't want to start a book before you go on holiday or on a trip or on a whatever, you know, that's kind of perfect because you can just download the novellas and read them on your flights and not have to worry about being invested into a brand new book. So I do definitely think they're worth giving a shot if they're in your interest. But that is enough of that. I think it's time to spin the wheel again. So I'm here to spin the wheel. Let's just spin it in 3, 2, 1. A book you know nothing about. Okay, so I actually have the perfect one, I think, but I need to go make sure it's on Kindle Unlimited. So give me a second. Okay, so it is on Kindle Unlimited. So backstory. I actually saw a bookstagrammer that I follow rave about this book. They said it was fantastic. They ate it up, 6-star read, whatever. And I'd never heard of this book before. I'd never seen it before. I know nothing about it. So I remember going on to Amazon and looking it up. I don't remember if I read the blurb. If I did, I cannot recall anything that it said. I remember one thing. Aside from seeing the bookstagrammer rave about it and say it was very good, the only thing that I remember seeing was in bold text. It said, if you are a fan of A Court of Thorns and Roses and if you're a fan of Caraval, then this fantasy is for you. And that is literally the only thing I know about this book. And honestly, I heard ACOTAR plus Caraval and I was like, say less. I will read that. For a book I know nothing about, I will be reading Phantasma. What is it about? I don't know. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up the blurb and read it for everybody. Now that it's picked, I can find out what it's about. Welcome to Phantasma. There are only 2 rules to the game. Stay alive and don't fall in love. When Ophelia's sister disappears, there is only one way to save her. Ophelia must enter Phantasma, a deadly contest inside a haunted mansion, and claim its prize. A single wish. Oh my god, that is Caraval. What the heck? Phantasma is a maze of twisting corridors and lavish ballrooms of demons and temptations. Ophelia will face 9 challenges, each more dangerous than the last. There will be only one winner, and the other contestants will stop at nothing to eliminate their rivals. Every day, the house creates new monsters, but just as Ophelia's fears threaten to overwhelm her, a mysterious stranger offers her a bargain. Okay, I'm seeing what they're putting down, okay? Charming, arrogant, and infuriatingly attractive, Blackwell claims he can guide her through the lethal trials ahead. All he asks in return is 10 years of her life. That's a lot of years. Ophelia knows she shouldn't trust him. Blackwell doesn't seem dangerous, but appearances can be deceptive. Worse still, she feels a dark and irresistible attraction drawing them closer and closer. Her life is on the line, but in Phantasma, the only thing deadlier than losing the game is losing your heart. Consider me intrigued. What? Okay, I'm definitely seeing the Caraval and ACOTAR parallels because Caraval, it's a game to win a wish. This is a game to win a wish. This has trials, ACOTAR has trials, and then Feyre makes a bargain with Rhysand. So I'm about to go rot in bed and like binge this book, I swear. Like this has me very excited. I'm just gonna go read it. I don't think I can wait. Am I gonna love it? Wait, it's in a series. It's called the Wicked Games series, and book 2 is Enchantra. Ooh, give me a second. I'm gonna go read that blurb and tell you if I wanna read that one too. Okay, I'm still reading, but it's about the sister. This literally is Caraval. You guys, I am gonna binge the series. No, book 2 is only available next year. No, when does it come out? Oh my god, it comes out the day after my birthday. In my birthday month. in my birthday month. Okay, I'm very excited. I will be pre-ordering book 2. Book 1 is good. I will probably be guessing myself a little physical trophy, but I'm excited. This is the most excited I've been. Okay, let's hope this goes well. Wish me luck. I'm gonna go read. Hi, I finished Phantasma. I ended up giving it a 3.5 stars. So this is another book that I feel very strangely about because I absolutely loved it up until the 40% mark, and it really did feel like an adult version of Caraval, which I loved. That was why I wanted to read it in the first place. And I truly thought that it was going to be minimum a 4-star rating, but then it really just lost me at like the 40-ish% mark up until the final level. So level 9 in the book. My main issue with this book was actually the smut. It felt like the author knew what she wanted to do with the beginning and the ending of the book from the very start, had it planned out very specifically and well done. However, guessing from the beginning to the ending felt like she kind of just lost the plot a little bit and wasn't sure how to get the characters to find the answers that they did. So instead of workshopping the actual plot, she just filled it with smut scenes instead. That was very frustrating, especially because then a lot of the answers felt like it was just handed to the characters rather than them actually working to find it. And so that was very frustrating because a smut scene here or there I would not have minded, but the fact that it felt like all of the plot had been replaced with smut for what, like 50% of the book was just, it was very disappointing and very frustrating. In addition to there being too much smut, I felt that the smut came at very inappropriate times in the novel because it would happen after something very traumatizing happened to the female main character. And she would go up to the male main character and be like, I need a distraction. Distract me. And then there would be 3 chapters worth of smut. In real life, I'm sure there are many ways people deal with trauma, one of which is probably including the ways that she dealt with her trauma. However, I feel like in romantasy books in general, this is like a trope that happens way too often, and it really, really bothers me. This book is quite dark. There are deaths. Some of the death the female main character causes, and I'm trying obviously not to spoil it, so I'm not going to go into detail, but the first time somebody dies and it's the main character's fault, how does she deal with it? Smut. There is another very dark scene which I won't explain because it has a lot to do with her character and stuff, but essentially she nearly ends her own life and then she deals with that with smut, and I just feel like that's quite irresponsible and not okay. Like, these people cannot be like dealing with these really dark, intense, emotional, traumatizing moments such as taking a life, attempting to take your own life, and you deal with it through smut. That is absolutely crazy to me. I hate that this is like common in romantasy books because I know with A Court of Wings and Ruin, they're in the middle of a war camp. There are people dying, lost their limbs, trying to like not die. And Feyre is just kind of like, you want to do it? And it felt the same with this book, and I can't think of any other examples, but I do know there are other examples, and I really hate that in romantasy books, and in this one it really got to me. I'm not saying that that's not realistic in terms of no one has ever dealt with trauma that way. I'm sure there are people that have dealt with trauma that way, but not everyone does, and not this many times. And there are some times where you simply cannot allow your characters to do that because it's just irresponsible. So I really didn't like that. I thought it was in poor taste, to be quite honest. That was frustrating and quite ridiculous in my opinion. The female main character in this book also has, I believe it's OCD or some kind of compulsive disorder, but I believe it's OCD. I don't really have much to say on how that was represented because I personally don't have it, and therefore I can't really speak on how it was represented as someone who doesn't have it. What I've heard from OCD, how the character act, I think it aligns quite well with someone who might have that. However, the other thing that also bothered me is her OCD at the end kind of just goes away because of a man. That's not how mental illnesses work at all. Could you imagine? Could you imagine illnesses just went away because you started dating a man? That's ridiculous. So there is that as well. Kind of just a few things done in poor taste, as you can probably tell from my opinion. But aside from the letdowns, which I just mentioned, I did really enjoy this book. I was very captivated by it, and I thought the plot was very interesting. I liked reading about the devils and things. I thought that was really interesting, and the way she went about creating them. And then obviously the plot being very Carvel-esque was very fun for me because I really did enjoy that series. If you don't know, I will link it down below. The spooky vibes were really fun, like I said. This is a very, very good book for Halloween time or for when you're missing Halloween time. Finally, you know, like I said, the writing's very digestible. It's very easy to just sit and lock in and binge the book. I really loved it, and then there were parts that I really, really disliked. So it's kind of difficult, which is why I landed on 3.5 because, you know, let's go spin let's go spin again. This might be the final spin. Hi, so we're just gonna get straight to spinning the wheel and seeing what my next read is. So we are spinning in 3, 2, 1. Okay, this one's exciting. A book a YouTuber recommended. There are a few, so I'm going to go read a couple of blurbs and then I'll be back to let you know what I've picked. I have read through my options and I have picked the one that I think sounds the most interesting. I ended up going with Carrie Can Read's recommendation, and that book would be A Spindle Splintered by Alix E. Harrow. The reason I picked this one is because I've been intrigued by it since she spoke about it, and it's just been on my mind, and I wanted a physical copy, but then it's a short story, and like I struggle spending the same amount on a short story hardcover as a normal length novel. Like there's no reason why I should be paying the same for 120 pages worth of content as I am 400 pages worth of content. So I was struggling with that. So I saw it was on Kindle Unlimited and I was like, okay, this is the perfect opportunity because I've been wanting to read this. It is a Sleeping Beauty retelling. It sounds very interesting. The only other book by Alix E. Harrow that I've read is The Six Deaths of the Saint, which is also a Carrie Can Read recommendation, and I thought that one was really interesting, and I want to read The Starling House by her, so I thought this is the perfect step into seeing if I like her work. So like I said, this is a Sleeping Beauty retelling. It is about our main girl, Zinnia, and it's her 21st birthday, but it says that it is the last birthday that she'll ever have because of a rare condition. So for her 21st birthday, which is supposedly her last birthday, her best friend makes her a Sleeping Beauty themed birthday party, and then it says she pricks her finger on a spinning wheel and then something unexpected happens and she finds herself falling through worlds with another Sleeping Beauty that's just as desperate to escape her fate. It kind of sounds like she traveled to another world and she's gonna help a real Sleeping Beauty, or the real Sleeping Beauty, not fall asleep, which sounds interesting. It's only 120 pages and I'm excited to read it. There is also a sequel I saw called A Mirror Mended, and I'm guessing that one's about Snow White because it's a mirror, but I could be wrong. I'm excited. It's very short, so I'll probably check in a couple of days to tell you how it's gone. But yeah. Hi, so I'm back, which obviously means I finished A Spindle Splintered by Alix E. Harrow. I don't rate novellas, so I don't have an official rating for it. However, if I were to rate it, I would give it in the 4 to 5 star range. It was really good. It was kind of interesting because I knew there was a sequel, but because our main character is terminally ill, I definitely spent the entirety of the book guessing whether or not we're going to be following a different character in book 2. I'm not going to say what her fate is so that if you want to read it, you can. And so when I'm speaking about the second book, I'm going to be very vague about who the main character is. I do have to say that honestly, this was probably one of the best novellas that I've ever read, and I really, really enjoyed my time with it. Alix has a very large skill set and talent for writing novellas and packing a punch in a tiny package. She manages to write a decently complex story in very few words and pages, and you almost get the feel of a full-length novel within those 120 pages, but you don't necessarily yearn for more or feel like you're missing something, because she's just so good at writing short stories that it doesn't feel like you're missing anything. If you want more, it's mostly because you just like the story, at least in my experience. The story itself was very interesting. I love a good retelling. This one was a Sleeping Beauty retelling, which is fun because I've only ever read one other Sleeping Beauty retelling, so it was nice kind of dipping my toe into a new fairy tale retelling a little bit. And I just really liked what she did with the plot and how she went about it, and the character was decently interesting, quite complex, and I really, really couldn't wait to see how her story progresses. Originally, I did want to spin the wheel another time, one final time for this video. However, once I finished A Spindle Splintered, I had to read A Mirror Mended. So instead of spinning the wheel, I just read A Mirror Mended, and I'm going to talk about it here a little bit and then say my goodbyes. Obviously, I can go into even less depth in A Mirror Mended because it is a sequel and I don't want to give away what happens in book one, and I really want anyone who watches this video to go pick it up because it's such a good baby duology. But I did really, really like A Mirror Mended as well. I did like it a bit less than A Spindle Splintered. I just enjoyed the character arc in the first book a bit more. In terms of actual plot, both were equally interesting in my opinion. If I were to rate A Mirror Mended, it would be in the 4-star range, and then the series as a whole would be in the 4 to 5-star range. My only really gripe with A Mirror Mended is that the main character, for their age, felt a bit childish. I understand why. It's one of those moments where when you consider the character's history and the life that they're leading and the problems that they have, it makes sense why that character is being childish. However, it was just slightly annoying to read about at some points, especially because the main character in book 2 is having a bit of conflict with somebody close in their lives, and the way that they go about it is kind of frustrating. However, because it's a novella, one, we don't get to see too much of that anyway, and then second of all, it gets resolved very quickly because book 2 is 130 pages, so it's not difficult to sit through as it would be in a normal sized novel. In general, this mini series is definitely my favorite novella series ever. I never thought I would be a novella person really, because I just never really felt connected to any novellas that I'd read except for these ones. Like, these ones stand out so well even though they're so short, and they're just a full entire story, but they don't feel too long, they don't feel too short. Again, the amount of talent and skill that Alix Harrow has with being able to write that intricate of a story and make it feel fulfilling in essentially 250 pages is great. Like, a full duology in 250 pages and you don't feel let down, you don't feel like there's unanswered questions or that the plot was lackluster. I think it's quite well done, and I really, really enjoyed my time with it. And this is a really, really wonderful mini duology if you're either traveling, like if you don't get car sick, or if you're on a train or a bus or a plane and you're going to be on it for quite a few hours, especially if you're a quick reader and you can get 250 pages done in like 3 to 4 hours. It can be great for travel, or if you're on a shorter ride, one book the one way, one book the other way. It's really the perfect length for traveling, especially if you don't want to get into a full-length novel right before a trip. I usually don't. So it really is perfect for that if you're a travel reader. And then it's also very perfect if you're kind of in a book slump, or you need a pick-me-up, as they like to say. Since it's so short, it really doesn't feel like you're committing too much. Like, picking these up was very easy because I knew it was a day to 2 day commitment. I didn't need to worry about like, well, I'm going to be reading this book for the next week, so I need to make sure that I'm making the right choice. It's like, no. It took me a bit longer to read book 2, but that's just because I was a bit lazy and didn't feel like reading. But yeah, it was a 5-day commitment for me for both. For most people, honestly, you might be able to read both books in one day if you're a quick reader. If you're a slow reader like me, it's definitely a longer commitment, but still compared to the other books that you might want to pick up, much shorter. And then in addition to the fact, it's a very easy read, but it's still a fantasy. And if you're like me and you have a preferred fantasy genre, that's just so much more appealing, because sometimes I feel very frustrated with the fact that I need something mindless to read, but I don't feel like reading a romance or a thriller. I still want to read a fantasy, and it's very rare finding a mindless fantasy that you can pick up, and this one felt very close to being mindless. There are definitely things you need to think about and stuff, but because they're novellas, it feels mindless adjacent, if that makes sense. I would highly recommend this book. I think it was very fun. It was short. It did what it needed to do. It was really well written. I'm really starting to become a fan of Alix Harrow. I highly recommend this one. I preferred the Fractured Fable duology. It was just more my style than The Six Deaths of the Saint, but The Six Deaths of the Saint is 30 pages. The audiobook is 51 minutes. It's not even an hour. So there's that one as well. And then she does have a lot of full-length novels as well, which I'm very excited to pick them up. I'm very excited to continue on this journey and read more of her work. So overall, very good, very great. I'm happy that I did this. And in general, doing this wheel challenge was just very fun because I've always wanted to try it, but I'm very particular about my physical TBR, and then I also don't have a very large physical TBR. I have a minuscule TBR on my e-reader, and then I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I have 10 books on my physical TBR currently, and I think the most that I've had was maybe 15 to 18. Let me know if there were any choices that the wheel didn't pick that you wanted to be picked, or if your choice was picked by the wheel. If you like me or my videos, I would really appreciate a like, comment, and subscribe if you feel like it. I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you so much. Bye.